In today's video, I'm going to give you the ultimate wildcard guide for game week 22. Before we dive into the team, I just wanted to outline which fixtures you should be looking to target over the next couple game weeks. Obviously, one double game week has been announced. That is the Manchester City and Brentford double game week, as you can see here on this guide put together by Ben Krellin. He, like I said in the past few videos, is the master of all these fixture arrangements, and his spreadsheet is absolutely golden. So I'll leave a link to all his socials so you can go and check this out for yourself, because it is an absolutely amazing tool. As you can see, the double for Brentford is Liverpool and Manchester City, so probably not a double like realistically that you want to be targeting. There aren't too many other good fixtures around these next few weeks, but nevertheless it is a double, so you will see some players from Brentford feature in today's video. Then obviously you do have the Manchester City side, which is a lot stronger. Chelsea and Brentford for them, absolutely ridiculous double, both home fixtures as well, and you do feel if Haaland is fit and available, he is probably going to be triple captaincy material for that week. There's no kind of getting away from that. That's the narrative, and that's the way that it potentially could seem. Obviously, as you can see here as well, there are some oranges. This is Liverpool and Luton again, who both could double. This is all dependent on Liverpool's Carabao Cup performance this midweek, so just keep an eye out for that. It would then mean that they would blank in game week 26, but they would have that double in 25, so I definitely think we want to take advantage of that. Brentford and Luton, we're probably looking again at something like triple Liverpool, maybe even double Liverpool if Salah potentially isn't back from his injury, or potentially could be late back from AFCON, depending on Egypt's progression over the next few days, because we are going to find out if they are going to make it out of the group stage. They're playing the only team so far that have picked up 2 wins in the whole tournament, so you would say, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for Egypt without their main man as well. So we could potentially have Salah back for 22 or 23 if he is fit. So just something to keep in mind as well when planning out your wild card. Obviously as well, some other blanks that potentially could take place is Chelsea versus Tottenham in game week 26. Again, that is all dependent on Carabao Cup progression. Chelsea currently find themselves 1-0 down to Middlesbrough, but there is a second leg at Stamford Bridge, and you would feel that Chelsea probably should come back from that one. So that means that Chelsea and Tottenham are going to blank. So you probably don't want to load up on too many Chelsea assets or Tottenham assets, because again, if you've got Liverpool players as well, you could potentially see yourself have 5 or 6 players out for this blank game week, and then force your hand into a wild card. And that's probably not a wild card, a free hit. That's probably not what you want to do when you've got, you know, better game weeks coming up. That could be utilizing that free hit chip. But let's go and take a look at the team. Starting us off in goal, we have gone for Areola, and as you can see on the bench, we do have Turner as well. So pretty standard goalkeeper pairing here. You know, both of them do have fixtures, no blanks kind of coming up apart from game week 29, which is a mass blank game week so far. So I think they're pretty reliable. No doubles. I think, you know, Flecken and Brentford's defence haven't really been at the races so far this season. And you'd probably argue that you wouldn't want a goalkeeper for that miserable double. I think potentially one goalkeeper that you could go for out of the lot could be Ortega if we find out any kind of news on Ederson. I haven't seen any so far kind of circulating on Twitter, so I'm guessing that he's still out of action. And if that is the case, I think Ortega for 3.8 million, if he can get himself to those double game weeks, if Ederson is out for a few weeks, would be my #1 candidate. But we have gone with Areola. They do have some quite okay-ish fixtures, do West Ham over the next few. Bournemouth, United, Arsenal, not great. But then Nottingham Forest, Brentford, Everton and Burnley, just pretty steady stuff. The rotating fixtures as well for Forest aren't too bad. Bournemouth, Newcastle and West Ham when Areola's fixtures aren't the greatest. So I think for goalkeepers, like, again, Areola has been doing well. This game week was a little bit different. Obviously did come off the game concussed. So again, just make sure that he does recover from that one. But we are going to get plenty of time for him to recover from that. There is 10 days at the time of recording till the next deadline. So you would imagine he will be fit and available for that one. If not, you would just have to play Turner. Or like I said, potentially see what's happening with the Ederson situation. Moving into the back line, we're going to start off with Pedro Porro, one of the best defensive assets that you can own right now in the game. He just seems absolutely immense. Even when Spurs aren't keeping clean sheets, this man is still picking up points. Absolute gold mine in terms of points for FPL. Bonus point magnet as well. The only concern you do have around him, obviously, is that blank in game week 26. But at that point, maybe potentially we could see Trent come back, and there is a little bit of money in the bank with this team, so potentially could see that switch. You've also got the fact that Trippier could be leaving Newcastle, so potentially you could go for Livramento as well. Newcastle, after the Aston Villa game, have Luton, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, Arsenal, Wolves and Chelsea as a run. So some pretty good fixtures in there, and at 4.3 million, Livramento could see himself as a great bargain. No blank as well for him in game week 26 if you did want to go down that route. Moving on to our next defender, it's a guy who's yet to play. It is Estupinian, and arguably on paper, Brighton without any doubles do have the best fixtures in the league. Luton, Crystal Palace, Tottenham, Sheffield United, Everton, Fulham and Nottingham Forest. Scored in two of his last games since returning from injury as well, Estupinian. A lot of us owned him early in the season. He's just a great all-round asset. Brings, I think, the level of performance from Brighton as well to another level. Just makes them so much like levels, honestly, levels to their game when he's on the pitch. Again, when Matoma's back as well, those two have an exceptional partnership. So, you know, potentially as well with the way that Japan are kind of going off in the Asian Cup, could face one of, I think it's South Korea potentially in the next round, the next knockout round. So we could see Matoma return early as well. And that, I think, would be very beneficial for Estupinian and his potential returns. Moving on to our final defender, and it is going to be Kyle Walker. For me, he is the best City defender to go for. I don't think there's kind of anyone else that I would potentially be looking for from that Manchester City defence. He has played 90 minutes, bar one game this season, and even saw out his clean sheet in that one. 67 minutes against Sheffield United. So a very reliable asset. It seems like Pep wants to play him every single week. Doesn't look like they're going to bring in anyone else in that right back position for the January transfer window either. So for me, with the double coming up and some other strong fixtures, and the fact that he's pretty much nailed, you'd have to argue, I think Kyle Walker is a great defensive asset to go for. Moving into our midfield now, this one does feel a little bit knee-jerky, and it is kind of a little bit of a placeholder for Mohamed Salah once we kind of get an update on his fitness and potentially Egypt's progression within AFCON. It is Diego Jota. Now, Chelsea at home is the next fixture for Liverpool. Not the greatest on paper. Then it's Arsenal, then it's Burnley, and then obviously it's the potential double that we could see. But I think he was just exceptional today. He is just a natural finisher. I think the performance that he put in today as well will definitely warrant him starting a few more games as well for Jurgen Klopp's side. So I definitely think he is a little bit of a knee-jerk gamble. I'm going to say that right now. And if I had to pick between him and Salah, because that's kind of the placeholder that I've got for him, I think he's a very easy upgrade. Maybe if you just wanted to go for him this week, then bring in Salah next week, the funds are still there in the bank. Moving on to our next midfielder, and it is the most popular transferred in player so far this week. It is Kevin De Bruyne, off the back of his impressive 21-minute cameo against Newcastle, where he picked up a goal and an assist. Like we spoke about earlier in the fixture section, with the Manchester City fixtures being so strong and that double game week being confirmed, if Haaland potentially isn't around as well for this game week, Burnley at home could offer himself up as a captaincy option, potentially. But I think the only concern that we're going to have with KDB is around his fitness and potential minutes as well. Both him and Pep have come out in the kind of recent post-match interviews and press conferences and said potentially not going to see out a full game, maybe 60 to 70 minutes, maybe some minutes off the bench as well. And you do feel potentially with a quite tight turnaround from the FA Cup fixtures on the 27th of January, then going into the 30th, which is game week 22 deadline. You know, there's not too much of a turnaround. And if KDB does play in the FA Cup, potentially could be benched for the Premier League game. So just want to keep an eye out with him, but I do think he's a great asset to go for with the doubles coming up as well. Maybe it's just going to take a little bit more time for him to starting every single game and seeing out large proportion of minutes. Right, moving on to our next man, and it is Anthony Gordon. Just a very solid and safe pick. We spoke about it with who was it? Liveramento earlier about the Newcastle fixtures coming up, though Luton, Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth, a really, really strong set of fixtures for Anthony Gordon. He can also do it against top sides. I think he's got a goal against nearly every top 6 side so far this season as well. Scored against Manchester City, a wonderful goal for him. And I think for the price that you're paying, I just don't think you can go wrong. Obviously, once Chelsea's blanks out the way as well, potentially could you move back to Cole Palmer, so then they'd have Brentford and Newcastle as well. So potentially something there. I just like either going for one of Palmer or Gordon. Gordon just slightly edges it as he doesn't have the blank, and he's just been pretty terrific all season, to be honest. No real issues with him and his performance so far this season. Moving on to a man who can't stop scoring at the moment, it is Richarlison, picking up goals for fun. I think that's 7 in his last 8 Premier League games as well. Obviously, I think with Werner coming in and potentially Son coming back from the Asian Cup, we might see a little bit more kind of less minutes. But at the moment, he just can't seem to stop scoring. Obviously, game week 26, that blank as well, is kind of looming around the corner for him. But leading into that, Spurs do have some quite nice fixtures. Brentford, Everton, Brighton, Wolves, and then obviously the Chelsea blank. So you could at least hold him for the next 4 or 5. Then maybe look to potentially change him for one of the Liverpool midfielders. Or if, you know, maybe Foden's absolutely slapping, maybe KDB's not at the races, that potentially could be an option you could go down there. But at the moment, I think the red hot form that Richarlison is in, I think he's a very smart and safe pick to go for on the wild card. Moving into our front line, and we're going to start off with Erling Haaland. Now, the kind of injury news we're getting at the moment is that he's potentially just training on his own. Doesn't look like healthy or good at the moment, so I think we are going to have to wait for any kind of press conferences ahead of the weekend before making a final decision on this one. I think if Haaland isn't fit and we don't get positive news, put Julian Alvarez in instead. But if we get, you know, maybe a little bit of potential news that he might play and, you know, it's looking pretty encouraging, I think I would go for Haaland. Burnley at home is a great fixture. Even if he comes off the bench, you do feel he potentially could get himself an opportunity. But I would say, like I said, keep up to date with all the kind of information. Follow me on Twitter as well. I'll probably be tweeting some stuff out. Come along to the streams as well. We'll have a preview stream on Thursday and the deadline stream next Tuesday as well. So just keep your eyes peeled for that, because we will be relaying the information about Erling Haaland there. Moving on to our next striker, and it's going to be Ivan Toney off the back of his scintillating return with that free kick. Questionable, but he did score it. Now, the reason I've gone for Toney is him and Brentford are going to have the most games played up until game week 29. Now, the reason that is, they obviously have the double, which isn't great with Liverpool and Manchester City, not the best. But they also play, and currently the only fixture that is going to be playing in game week 29. Now, that is due to FA Cup. Obviously, the FA Cup 4th round is this weekend, so we will see a few more fixtures added to that roster that will be available for game week 29. But if you're not planning on using your free hit chip in that week, then Ivan Toney could be the perfect long-term replacement. He's got a lot of games, a lot of difficult games though. Tottenham, City twice actually, Liverpool, Chelsea and Arsenal. Not the easiest bout of fixtures, but Ivan Toney is one of those players that just does score goals. As well, he's on free kicks and penalties, which is always an amazing asset. And you do feel with him being back, he's a little bit more deadly. He just seems like he's on it at the moment, potentially trying to secure that big money kind of summer move for him. So if he puts in some strong performances, definitely could be. But I just wanted to outline him. Like I said, he is going to be playing the most games, so could offer himself up as a great option if you don't want to use that free hit chip a little bit further down the line in game week 29. Moving on to our final forward, it is going to be João Pedro. Very similar situation with Estupiñán. Both of them have been absolutely on fire with the positive fixtures coming up as well, and his dirt bottom price and on penalties as well. I think he makes really just no-brainer, to be honest. Really, really good sense. Doesn't blank in game week 26 either. So, you know, they've got Everton at home, Sheffield United away in game week 25. Some really, really strong fixtures on penalties and in really good form. So I think João Pedro, very safe pick. Before we finish up, let's take a look at the bench. Turner in goal. I mean, we've kind of gone through that one. Garnacho's in here because I think he's a great enabler. There's some definite positive fixtures for Manchester United coming up. Wolves, West Ham, Luton, Fulham. Again, don't blank in game week 26. Actually plays Fulham. And it seems like he is kind of first choice at the moment in Ten Hag's plan. So I definitely think he is a very good option to go for at that 4.8 million price tag. Definitely enables you to get in some of the big boys in this team ahead of those double game weeks. Moving on to one of our defenders, I've gone for Ethan Pinnock. Pinnock, again, just for the amount of games. I don't think they're probably going to pick up too many points during this run, but with the amount of kind of fixtures that Brentford are going to be playing and the fact that they don't blank in game week 29, Ethan Pinnock could be a potential option. But I think most weeks you are going to play that back three that is on screen there. And then very similar with Doherty, he's been picking up assists for fun over the past few weeks, and Luton potentially could have that double. They also face Sheffield United in game week 24, a definite fixture I probably would look to play Doherty in at home as well for Luton. You do feel that could be a massive 6-pointer for their Premier League survival. That was my wildcard guide. Let me know what you think of it down in the description below. If you need any help as well with your team, do leave it in the comments. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck this game week.